Good afternoon, everyone. Master Sergeant Nico Martiri. I'm a software developer at the Army Software Factory. Going to go into a quick introduction, so a little background on myself. I'm an infantry senior sergeant. Spent about 14 years in the 75th Ranger Regiment, 9 years in 3rd Range Battalion, pretty extensive sniper background. Went through selection and training for our regimental reconnaissance company. Did a couple years interagency working in counterterrorism, and then got accepted and joined the software factory as a software developer.
Hey guys, my name is Captain Sebastian Hong. You heard all the cool stuff that Nico here did. I did none of that. I've been in the Army for about 4 years. I spent 18 months at Fort Hood, and then I was lucky enough to get into the software factory and really do what I do today.
So the Army Software Factory is a soldier-led software factory based out of Austin, Texas, under Army Futures Command. Dr. Miller kind of advocated for us in his opening remarks, talking about how we are a soldier-led software factory doing agile development, and kind of going to expand upon that and how we're different than some of the other software factories out there. Big thing for us is we are not an acquisitions authority. We don't have money to put towards a directed requirement. Instead, we kind of solve problems for soldiers on the ground. And kind of work in between that. If there is already acquisitions or a company working on something, we can't work in those spaces. So we try to solve problems in between where those soldiers on the ground don't currently have a solution to a problem they're experiencing. All right, so our overall mission is to conduct global software operations while prototyping a future force design to enable units to dominate and win on modern battlefields. So what is prototyping a future force design? So this is the Army learning through kind of our operations at the software factory, how to expand this capability and have soldiers conduct software operations at units throughout the Army, which we are kind of on the back end of now, which I'll explain in a little bit. So some of our key tasks are to train soldiers in commercial best practices. Well, what are commercial best practices? So we do agile development, kind of rapid feedback loops where we're incorporating soldier feedback. Instead of user-centered design, we like to refer to it as soldier-centered design because we like to keep them in the center of everything we are doing at the software factory. We do CI/CD. For the software developer side, we practice extreme programming to include paired programming. We do test-driven development, which means we write a test before we write any implementation code, doing red-green refactor. Some of our other key tasks is to rapidly build mission-specific software, so getting solutions into the hands of soldiers in a timely manner to meet their need. And then with that comes conducting responsible cybersecurity. And then ultimately, we want to dominate and win on the battlefields that are disconnected, lethal, and non-permissive, highly technical, dynamic, and ambiguous. All right, so kind of an overview of how we operate, how we train. So we start off, we select from an Army-wide talent pool. So usually we have a few hundred applicants every 6 months competing for 25 slots at the software factory. We take in all ranks and MOSs, which is kind of important to us because the big thing for us and what makes us different is that operational experience. So a lot of times we get a problem or a project to work on. We could put a soldier that has experience in that problem set onto the problem, so they already kind of have a baseline and understand what the needs are of that end user, and it allows us to kind of rapidly develop and get to a solution faster. It's not somebody going out there that doesn't understand the problem, doesn't understand the space. If it's logistics, we could put a logistician on it. If it is airborne operations, we can make sure a jump master is on that problem. So we have a selection screening process, multiple rounds of interviews. After that, we go into a technical accelerator. We're actually partnered with a community college in downtown Austin, and then we kind of break up into 4 tracks. We have software developers, platform engineers, product managers, and designers. So those are all broken up into separate tracks and primarily doing college classes for about 6 months, but those college classes were tailored to kind of meet the needs of our software development capabilities that we need. After the academic period, we do what's called a bridge program, where we take kind of like the industry best practices to go kind of from academic to actual full stack software development. So after 6 months total of that, those soldiers actually go onto the floor and get put on actual teams conducting software operations. We have industry pairing. Well, they're paired with industry, one-on-one on a daily basis for 6 months, practicing that paired programming. If you're a software developer, same thing though for platform design and product managers. They have a pair with them every single day. After that 6 months of working on real problems, they take an ASI assessment. Me being a software developer, my ASI assessment was a 6-hour coding exam, 3 hours each with 2 different evaluators, implementing a full stack story from our actual backlog from the front end all the way to the database. For platform engineers, they go to the basement for about 2 weeks, and they have to build a full platform over a 2-week period. I can't speak as much on the design or product management, but it's all in line with our practices. So product managers, stakeholder management, writing user stories, similar thing for our designers doing UI, UX, focusing kind of on the user part of it, getting user interviews, doing the designs, Figma, FigJam. So after ASI, this is kind of something new, but a functional area has been approved, functional area 28 for the Army, which is kind of a specialized career field for officers and warrant officers. For officers, it's functional area 28 alpha, and then warrant officers is 280 alpha with the first kind of cohort going through and being accepted in September. So that was kind of that prototyping the future force design. This is kind of the next step where the Army has kind of decided that we kind of have a path forward on how to expand this throughout the Army. After that ASI, you spend another up to 24 months on a software team doing software throughout. We're broken up onto product teams. So a normal software team will have 1 product manager, product designer, not including if they have a pair, if they are pre-ASI, and then about 4 to 6 software engineers on that team, and then we could kind of scale as necessary if we need more support on a certain mission. Our platform teams are broken up similar. They have a product manager, designer, and then 4 to 6 platform engineers. Some really good platform. I mean, they created our entire new platform at the software factory that we're now using. So kind of how we operate, we kind of have a hub and spoke reach back support. We have sent kind of our first cohort members out to the force, primarily at the corps level. So we have software teams out at 18th Airborne Corps, USARAF, USARPAC, a couple at like division level, and the Army's kind of still figuring out what's right-sized and where those software teams need to go. Kind of some of the key highlights here is obviously we're taking in ranks or MRSs for people that are already in. This is not an entry-level career field, and that is by design because that operational experience and context is important when they're on these teams to go solve problems. All right, so this is kind of a summary, a global rapid response capability. I'm not going to go into all of these numbers on here, but generally we have 6 to 8 soldiers per application teams. We've had multiple dynamic taskings with less than 72 hours of notice, multiple urgent taskings in less than 30 days, 50 plus technical advisory missions, over 26 steady state projects that we're working on. 20 supported missions embedded with users and units, 7 forward deployed locations with reach back to Austin, and then overall, our teams have been out to over 181 locations in 8 different countries. Unprecedented speed of mission, average months to value is 3.7 months. We've had 8 solutions completed in under 60 days, and then over 16 tech stacks trained. So we are not married to one tech stack. We do kind of have a baseline tech stack that we use, but we've done everything from full stack web app, ATAK, WinTAK, low code, no code, iOS development, Android development, and kind of anything in between there. So when we go out, we'll go out to Army units and kind of scope a problem. So a lot of times we have a product office to go out and scope a mission. Sometimes software teams will partake in that. And kind of the first question we're asking first is figuring out the pain points. At the end of the day, a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, but we care about what pain points are they actually having. So a lot of times we'll get told a problem and we'll go find out that that is not actually the problem. The users have a different pain point, and then we'll have to pivot. Kind of the next big thing we ask, is software actually the solution? A lot of times everybody wants to go to software, but there are a lot of times where it's not the right answer. So we've been out to units where they've had process issues. We've helped them kind of identify that from an outside third-party perspective. And then sometimes they fix those process issues, and maybe a software solution is valid. But we've also gone out and done low-code, no-code. So we had a team help with Ranger School grading. If any Ranger School graduates here, it's actually a pretty complex grading process, and they were able to kind of revamp their entire grading, I think doing a Power BI app, where we didn't need a full-stack web application to solve their problem. All right, some more numbers. I'll just highlight a few here. So since inception of the Army Software Factory, we saved over 127,000 soldier hours. I'll give an example, not TAK related, but Airborne Ready was basically taking digital jump log, or analog jump log process and digitizing it. So since World War II, jump log management for paratroopers has basically been unchanged. You fill out a jump log, a couple fields have been added, but it's basically been the same process. Soldiers have to maintain a jump log book, or a jump log custodian does for all the soldiers in their company. They have to, one by one, update every single jump in there, and then figure out what their pay currency is, what their jump currency is, and then prioritize those jumpers that they need to get out the door for pay or for progression. So we were able to digitize that, and ended up saving 32,000 soldier hours a year. And that application was just voted on at the last Army Airborne Board to be the new kind of system of record for how they maintain jump logs. So they no longer have to maintain a paper jump log copy. They have to download it once a month. And they could update an entire chalk of jumpers in one go, and then it auto-calculates what their pay is, what their jump readiness is. So that's kind of a big deal. Not all of our applications kind of go enterprise level like that. A lot of our applications are kind of more perishable, episodic. We're solving a problem that they have now that they don't have a solution for, but we do have some apps that have kind of gotten bigger enterprise level, and then we work with the transition partner to go have a partner that actually has acquisitions authority to sustain that project. Another example, we had software developers develop the My Army Post application. This was done in iOS and Android. They got an MVP out in 17 days and a total cost of $1,400. Chief of Staff of the Army was quoted for $40 million on how much it would cost to implement that, and they said it would take 12 to 18 months. So kind of some incredible kind of cost savings. And then obviously no cost to the unit. That $1,400 is the cost of hosting it on our platform. $197 million saved to date based off our application, and then 75.9% kind of average ops efficiency increase. Example of that, we created a application called Blast Radius for ammo site planning, how they could safely store ammunition. It took the process down from 8 hours to 40 minutes. So we kind of have statistics like that across our portfolio. PZOps I'm not going to get into, that's going to get briefed. And then moving on from here, we're going to go into our support for transformation and contact units over the last about year and a half.
Hey guys, so I'm going to talk a little bit about an application that I personally worked on, and it's PZOps. Yesterday during the keynote, you guys may have heard the CTO of the Army mention something about working with the 101st. This was it. About, I think in April or May of last year, our team was tasked to go support, transform, and contact and try to figure out what kind of a problem we should solve within the 101st. That potentially could be solved with software and ideally utilize some sort of ATAK technology to bring that solution. And so what we found was when we showed up there, some of their leaders, we worked with the engineer battalion there, some of their leaders asked us, hey, can you guys digitalize the sling load inspection form? That's kind of a big problem we have, it's not digitized. And as Nico said, what we do is we show up to these units, we map out their processes, figure out if the problem that they think that they have is what they really have. And as you can see, this looks nothing like a sling load inspection form. So what we found out was during their large-scale, long-range air assault process, they went through about 7 different documents, swivel chairing in between, to plan and execute. And in order to see to that operation, the only way they had was radio. So for something from the ground by the helicopter to get all the way up to the division, it took about 4 echelons and about 45 minutes of, hey, did you guys get that? This thing is frustrated. And for those of you who may not know what an air assault or a large-scale, long-range one is, I'm going to do a brief explanation of it. So one of the mission essential tasks that the 101st does is they use a helicopter and they pick up some sort of heavy load that can't fit into the helicopter, right? So a lot of these times it's going to be some sort of vehicle. So they pick up an infantry squad vehicle and then they fly with it, drop it down, get soldiers out to kind of assault the objective or do whatever else. A large-scale one, they've got over 100 of them that spans over 3 mission nights with dozens of things going on at once. With every single one of those helicopters and loads, that's a point of potential failure, right? And so every single time something went wrong, they'd have to pause the operation for that group of helicopters, radio it up, let everybody up the chain of command know while they tried to fix it. And then in 15 minutes, if that wasn't fixed, they would have to scratch that load and try to get something else on there so that the helicopter wouldn't fly with just the personnel and waste all of that time and money to bring nothing to the fight. What we found was because it took so long for that information to reach the higher echelons and the people that are conducting the pickup zone operation didn't actually know what needed to happen at the landing zone, there was no way for them to make the quote-unquote right decision as to what the next thing should be that they would replace with a scratched load. And so what we did was we built out something that I took some inspiration from as I left from my TDY and went into the airport. I noticed that we on the civilian side also have something like this at airports. Every time you go to an airport, you can see, hey, that's my flight, it departs in 20 minutes, and then when you open up your app, when you land, you can see, hey, my baggage is at carousel 3. Sounds pretty familiar, right? The Army was running a smaller operation than that because airports do this globally, and yet they were using analog processes, swivel chair, and radio to communicate this. And so what we did was we built an ATAK plugin that took the data pre-built, and we allowed users to, at 2 clicks, upload the statuses of one serial. A serial is a group of helicopters that are taking off at the same time. We also gave them the capability to put some sort of load note on there to describe, hey, this thing is stuck. And what we found was users from the landing zone and users from higher echelons of command would start typing in there, even though they weren't the original users that this was intended for, hey, I need this water blivet, and that's the only thing I need on there. Please get this to me now. And so what we did was flatten those communications and allow the users to communicate across the battlefield what needs and what was actually going on. This improved their processes a lot, but it wasn't enough. The next level of users that we decided to look after was the division staff. So when we started going to interview the division staff, all the colonels and majors that were there, what they were doing was they were taking an Excel spreadsheet with the plan and then hand transferring from one spreadsheet to another to track what had made it off of the pickup zone. And then when they hear it on the landing zone, the guy who was there, the battalion XO, who had a million other things going on right now, would then pick it up, look at it, and try to figure out, hey, this is what I have. And every time a new serial landed, he had to do that over and over again to inform the battalion commander what they had on hand in order for them to make that decision. Pretty crazy, right? What we did was we built out a WinTAK dashboard that basically just summed all of that data up, and we added an arrived button for users to say, hey, my load has arrived, and now all of that swivel chair and all of that staff hand cranking data no longer needed to happen. But we still had one more problem to solve, and the problem was data literacy. When I first showed up to this unit, the first thing that one of the stakeholders asked was, how do I integrate AI-ML? I'm sure a lot of you kind of get that same question, and my question back that I didn't ask was, why AI-ML, all right? The tool didn't even exist yet, and he wanted to integrate AI to do something. But what we found was, in order for the dashboard to make sense, we need the users to input structured data. Since everything was free text, somebody would put ISV in all caps, somebody would put ISV in all lowercase, all sorts of stuff. So they were not actually able to, without still redoing some of that manual process, figure out what they had on hand. So we created a Nipper-based web application that helped the planners collaborate and plan this, and included structured data within this so that they could just hand select it, and it would make the entire system work. As of, I think, 2 weeks ago, we heard back from the division ORSA that their new commanding general, and from my personal experience hearing it during the JRTC rotation, their old commanding general has dictated that PZOps is what they're going to be using for large-scale long-range air assaults. And so a couple of the lessons learned that I already talked about. One of the biggest things that I want to call out here is we can never do enough in UX. Whenever I show up to these units, it seems to me that they treat the ATAK devices just like they treat radios. It's locked away because the platoon leader doesn't want to lose it and have to pay for it, and the soldiers never get to train on it. And you would think that because it's a cell phone, it's already easy enough to use, but it's not. We can do better. One of the biggest issues is we don't understand, or soldiers that I've talked to do not understand whether or not their ATAK device is actually communicating. It is not clear enough for the soldiers to know whether or not what I'm doing here on my device can be seen by the other guy. All right? Have a couple other things I think I already talked about, and then I'm going to move on to another one. This one I didn't actually personally work on, but it was another one of our Transforming Contact initiatives. What we'd done was we showed up to a unit and figured out that a pretty common Army problem is reporting. Every field exercise you conduct, every operation, you kind of need to know what you have on hand, what you need to have in the next 24 hours and 72 hours so that you can resupply food, fuel, your equipment breaks down, all sorts of stuff. And so what we created was LogTAK. We then rebranded it to LogTAK Plus as we changed a couple features because we originally went with a pub and sub model that, again, wasn't good enough UX. We asked users to go to your squad or whoever you're reporting with and share your device information with each other and hand type about 5 devices so that you can subscribe to the next guy. That's too much work for these guys. Who wants to do that here? Nobody, right? So what we did was we started trying to build out an inherent system that they didn't have to go do that with. And now company XOs start that reporting chain and report that all the way up. And what we did was we integrated this with Maven. I think I forgot to cover, we also integrated the PZOps data after the WinTAK app into the Maven Smart Systems because that's now the platform that the division was utilizing. So again, we meet users where they're at. We try to bring the data, the solution, all the way to from the highest echelons to the lowest echelons, where they're at and where their training is. And I think that's all I've got.
All right, moving on to a couple other applications we've done within the TAK space. I also was not on this team personally, so I have a little bit more detailed on the next problem set. But this problem, the project name Raptor UAS, and this was trying to do manual flight calculations for 2 MDTF out of Germany. So they were getting a bunch of UAVs in that were not on UAS tool, and they were trying to layer effects with UAVs. but with their time on target, they were plus or minus 60 minutes from their intended time on target, trying to calculate and figure out how long it would actually take to get on the station. So this team worked in TAK-X. So for us, this was the first kind of TAK-X plugin that we worked on, and just wanted to kind of give a huge shout out to Mr. Nate France, TAK Product Center Director, and the TAK-X developers. Our team got in contact with them, and they immediately kind of got them virtual training and saved them kind of a lot of hours or even days of libraries and other things that were already implemented to kind of ease their development and speed up their development time. That's it. I'm not going to cover this too much. Some of the lessons learned, I'll keep this up here for a minute to people to read over from this team working in TAK-X for the first time. So the team actually did the flight calculations, and they have an electrical engineer on the team who actually just did the math to figure out all of the time of flight calculations and implemented that in the TAK-X. Some of the issues they had was getting like winds aloft and weather data. It was hard for them to get CONUS and OCONUS from open source. So that was one of the issues they had that could have made their calculations a little bit more accurate and probably reduce their time of the plus or minus 15 minutes that they were able to get it to. And they also highlighted digital literacy being key to TAK adoption by the unit. Kind of a recurring theme we notice when we go out to units is a lot of units don't actually have a lot of TAK experience. Actually working around with the plugins, they don't even know what plugins are available. A lot of times they'll be asking for things that are already implemented in kind of TAK core or kind of standard plugins. All right, moving on. So this is the team I am currently on. So we got a request for support from Northcom, so Combatant Command. General Geo himself asked for software factory support, and it ended up being a 30-day support. That's about all we were told, is go up to Northcom headquarters for 30 days and go help them with digital transformation and solve problems. So kind of open-ended, no problem statement, just kind of had to go up there and make ourselves useful. So we embedded at Northcom headquarters for that entire 30 days. We helped General Geo get a lot of his staff up onto Maven Smart Systems. And if you worked Maven Smart Systems, helping with like data pipelines for the joint directorates that had authoritative data sources, getting that connected in their data pipelines and pulling that, and then ultimately being able to brief General Geo for his commander's update brief. That happens daily off a Maven Smart System. While we're up there, JTF Southern Border and the Southern Border Mission, which is a priority right now for our country, was up there, and we worked with them and kind of noticed they had some issues with border reporting. So getting the compiled numbers from a tactical level all the way up to a combatant commander who has to brief Congress, has to brief the Secretary of Defense on almost a weekly basis on the southern border. That chain takes a long time to go from strategic level down all the echelons and back up and making sure it's accurate. And by the time he gets a aggregated number, it's usually stale and inaccurate just because of the amount of time that took place. So one of the things that we noticed is for the Southern Border Mission, they were on crosstalk servers, which made it a little bit easier for us. And we're like, well, you have access to ATAK already. Why don't we just make an ATAK plugin that does all of this reporting? So as we were kind of working with the joint directorates, at night we'd go back to the hotel, and in the time we were there, and I think a couple weeks, we already had an MVP already done and did a proof of concept of generating a report and populating it into IL5 Maven Smart System. So we were able to do that pretty easily. And kind of future state now is we have a cross-domain solution approved. We're just waiting for the last kind of engineering for that to go up to IL6. So we're going to be able to go from a TAK device end user all the way up to General Geo's level in hopefully just minutes. We still have to test the cross-domain solution, but right now up to IL5, it's in a matter of seconds. getting that down from 8 hours that it was previously. So this was a first for us, is integrating our TAK plugin, getting the COP messages, XML into IL5, and then from IL5 cross-domain solution, it has to turn into JSON kind of master schema, and then we'll have to repopulate all the objects to make a dashboard. And kind of what we're noticing now is this is kind of a big trend for a lot of the units that are starting to use Maven Smart System, is they want that kind of TAK data and then eventually to a dashboard to a senior leader to make a decision at some level with Maven Smart System or any other type of COP. All right, so kind of some of the overall kind of lessons learned. Tactical, operational, strategic communication value chain requires cross-domain solutions and integration across multiple enclaves. So a lot of this for that border reporting TAK plugin, we are able to do that rapidly, and it's very easy to do it, but we do need to work with partners to make that happen. So we have to have Northcom buy-in to get the kind of commander to prioritize, like, hey, this is actually one of my priorities. I want to put it to the top of the list for Palantir to prioritize it to get the cross-domain solution. So it's working with everybody. We are still able to do that pretty rapidly. A lot of our developers for this specifically had to use kind of TAK native resources such as Enterprise Sync API. And then also just kind of proving out that kind of Maven Smart System or any other kind of third-party COP tool could be used as kind of a back end, kind of as like a database. We're going to send the data from our ATAK devices. If we go offline, we'll just store that in local storage, make a queue. As soon as they're back online, it'll send that. But ultimately, for this case, Maven Smart System kind of is the backing data source to compile all of that. For us, cross-organizational communications were kind of critical to success. For that mission set, it involves a lot of other organizations, interagency, which is why the crosstalk servers were being used in the first place. Kind of operationalizing TAK, doing it in real-world missions, and kind of bridging the gap from exercise participation to like a priority mission, regardless of whether that's JTF Southern Border or any of the kind of the CTC rotations. And then for that specific plugin, we did some camera work, and having some kind of Android native development expertise helped because we wanted to get all the metadata from a sensor. So if you take a picture, we want to get your location, the angle you're looking at, and that did require some kind of native Android development because the sensor data did not kind of transfer properly. It was messed up, and we had to revert back to the, native Android development. Okay, that's kind of all I have for this brief. Just kind of wanted to highlight again the soldier-centered design is getting with the end users. So we kind of create our applications with them, because at the end of the day, if you start to build something and the end user hasn't used it, you might be wasting your time and money to develop something that nobody is ever going to use. So that's kind of one of the things we harp on at the software factory. We'll go out to the field. We meet with our end users probably almost on a daily basis virtually, and then multiple TDYs to get in the field with them and go get their feedback in the environment that they're going to be using that software in. We'll stand by for questions. That's all I got, though. Thank you.
So are you guys developing your own cross-domain solution? Are you going to leverage an existing one already?
So we're leveraging existing ones. A lot of times for our units, we kind of meet them where they're at and develop on whatever platforms or systems they have. If it's a web app or something like that, we have our own platform that we could host that on. But for anything kind of operational, we do it on the systems that are already in place by that unit.
On the projects that are proven out, so like PZ ops and stuff like that, and then now you have buy-in from leadership, what's the process for making sure that gets sustained in the transition? Is there a traditional requirements process that happens? How does that get sustained in the future?
Yes, sir. So we work with a transition partner, and if our one of our applications is getting to that point where it's kind of getting more enterprise level, we try to identify a transition partner as soon as possible. Usually we work with the unit and try to get kind of geo buy-in on that to help find a transition partner. For Airborne Ready, for instance, it's going to ATIS. So we work with them, we have daily syncs and meetings with them, and then we support them for a set amount of time, maybe like magnitude of months, to make sure that transition actually happens. It gets piped over to their platform. There's no issues. They kind of have like a ticket support system or something already in place, and we'll work with them as long as they need to make sure that the application doesn't go down and is still kind of meeting the end user. For like Airborne Ready, for instance, basically the entire airborne community is switching over to that, so there can't be a break in that or a lag. So we, luckily, we have some resident acquisitions officers that are kind of able to help navigate that space as well, to make sure we try to hand that unit kind of a finished product already that they could just submit to make it easier on that unit, sir. All right, if there's no other questions, on the second table up here, we do have some cards, stickers, and brochures. If anybody wants any more information, there is a QR code. We do have a website that kind of explains the software factory. Also, our application portal, if anybody in the Army is interested in applying. And if you have any questions, feel free to come up to us and grab us the remainder of the TAK Offsite. Thank you.